Good morning, Joyce. So good to have you. To each and every one of you, we welcome you to our services this morning. Lord, would you help me get everybody's attention, please? Zach, I want you to know you're the only person here that's not talking. Everybody else is talking. I would like to call your attention to our bulletin. We have some very important announcements that are there. I'm talking to myself. You realize that? I am. I'm talking to myself. This is a very important week. A lot of things happening here, and I just wanted to mention a couple of them. Starting out this coming Wednesday night, and you have seen on our bulletin, Joy has put there some of our important dates, and actually I might as well start with today. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, we will elect our officers for next year. I hope that you will be here in attendance. It says a lot about how we feel and how important this session is. I want you to go home, eat you some lunch, don't sit down, don't turn on the TV and start seeing how the ball game's going. Don't do any of that kind of stuff. Just eat and come back and be here at 2 o'clock. And we'll try, hopefully, not to occupy your entire afternoon. And hopefully it'll be, each one of you will respond to that. Now, and then Wednesday night at 6 p.m. we have our family night. This will be the last family night that we will have this year, simply because of the calendar and the way it falls. The next Wednesday night in November falls on Thanksgiving Eve, the night before Thanksgiving. The Wednesday night in December falls on Christmas Eve. So we'll be here for Christmas Eve service, hopefully, but we will not be having our, quote, family night. So this will be the last one, and we hope that it will be very meaningful to you, because I'm asking each one of you to come here that night, Wednesday night. We're sharing a meal, but we also will have some very special guests here. We will have our insurance adjuster, Mike Edwards, and we will have the contractor, Balfour, their representative, Christopher Self. They will both be here. We will answer questions. We hope to have some drawings that our architect has given us or will give us, and talk to David. We hope to have them on the screen, big screen up here for you to see. And if you have any concerns or questions or whatever about the church and the restoration and where it's at and what we're doing and all those kind of things, bring those with you Wednesday night, and they will address them, and we will do our best to answer all your questions. And if it's something that we just do not know, we will say we do not know at that point in time. So, but be here and let's share in that service here, and I'm looking forward to that. And then next Saturday will be our cleanup day. Larry's already talked to you a little bit about the number of people, a lot of non-members, and brothers and sisters, we really want to put our best foot forward. I would hate for non-members to walk in and I'm not going to say be impressed, but at least know that we are who we are. And a lot will have to do with the physical appearance of our facilities here. And I know we're kind of dealing with not what we used to as far as our sanctuary, but we want to make this place as clean and as nice and as presentable as possible. And the only way we can do that is show up Saturday. and be part of our cleanup. Rick's going to be here, of course, and head that up. We hope to mop this floor, move some furniture. We got to reset everything up. So just a lot of things that we need to do Saturday. And I really petition and solicit your help. Larry, do you want to address the colloquy?
And before I do, I just want to say Lloyd is scheduled not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday on the 4th to have a cataract removed. And that's very important to Lloyd, so I know Lloyd would appreciate your prayers. That's not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, November the 4th. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sonny just made a statement he's not going to be here. Do you know where he's going to be? So, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Once.
Well, that says it all.
Moving right along. Once again, turn to the announcement regarding the Peace Award, Peace Colloquy, and if you'll follow as I read, Peace Colloquy next Sunday at 4 o'clock. Once again, the recipient is Carrie Keller, who was the president of Cottage Hill Little League for 22 years. We have 1 week to get ready. We're expecting a large attendance. We want you to attend. We need you to help. The Peace Award will be a great challenge, but a greater opportunity to witness and share the peace of Christ with our community. We are, come on over here, Joyce. We are expecting a large attendance, possibly the largest attendance we've ever had in the Rock. And such an attendance will present a great challenge in terms of parking, in terms of seating, in terms of feeding and hosting. It'll be a great challenge. And as I said last Sunday, we need your help. A lot of people have already helped. John Sebastian. Thank you, John. David Gross. Rick, he always helps with everything. Phyllis, Eric, Joyce, and Cliff. Lee Scott. Lee, thank you. And of course, always Wayne. Wayne, we don't take you for granted. Wayne has helped a lot. But from here on out, we need everyone's help. So just 3 specific ways you can help. Number 1, please be at cleanup day Saturday to get the grounds and the building ready. Number 2, ladies, please say yes when Joyce and Sheila ask for help. And number 3, men, we need help with parking. If we have a large attendance, parking is going to be a big job. And it's a very important job to provide our guests with efficient, safe parking. Very important. So in the past, Rick and the Scouts have directed parking. But this year we want the Scouts involved inside. We want them to be a part of the Peace Award, so the Scouts will be inside. We need men. Lee has already volunteered. I know Donnie is going to be helping. So men, get with us and help us with parking. Sunday, a lot of people will experience the community of Christ for the first time. and let's make it a great experience. Joyce? Yeah.
Okay. For one thing, we'd like all of you to come and all of you to be host and hostess. 200 or 300 people. We need to make sure we say, we're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. We need a smile on our face and say, this is who we are, and we're glad you're here. And you guys do that so well automatically. I've heard that before. So this is not a hard thing. Our telephone committee, Jackie and Francis Bowers, has been calling the ladies. I don't know if you've been called. Probably so, but anyway, we need, Larry has planned to have a giant cake like we had for Lloyd's birthday party, and but that's not going to serve that many people. So what we want to do is just have 10 more sheet cakes. You know, just a box of yellow cake mix with white icing. Don't pre-cut it. Just bring it up here in the pan. We will cut it and serve it, so we'll all have all the pieces will be the same size. So we have 7 already donated or promised, and if you can possibly help, I need 3 more people. Anybody like to volunteer? 1. Okay. 2. Okay. That's good. I'm doing 1, so that's our 3. Anyway, have it up here. Ooh, I don't know what time. What time to have it up here, Sheila? Sunday morning? Okay. Okay. I have an excuse for not being here Saturday. Just so you know, my aunt is turning 100 on Saturday in Atmore, Alabama, and that's where I'm going to be celebrating her birthday party. And I'm not going to feel guilty at all. I think she's been in the hospital for about a week. Last week she spent in there with coughing and bad things happening to her. And I think really part of her, she was living for this party. So I wouldn't miss that for anything in the world. But anyway, I will be here Sunday and I will be working. And we need servers. We need ladies, if you will. We need people to be putting the cakes, making sure there's plenty of cake. We only have 30 minutes to serve and eat and go to the next session. So the thing is Pepsi and Coke. He'll tell you why the Pepsi, but anyway, we have to get them into the little dishes, the little saucers, and get them distributed. We need to make sure the line's moving, and if it's not fast enough, maybe we can even hand out. So if you can, please be prepared to serve. Okay? Thank you. We through?
Our music director would like to address you for just a short moment. John, you didn't have much to say today, did you? We're going to give you 10 minutes.
Good morning. I know the choir hasn't met in a while, and with the fire, things have kind of been off kilter, but I wanted us to do something special for the Thanksgiving service. November 23rd will be the Thanksgiving service, and I was hoping that we could practice 2 Wednesday nights before that. So that would be November 12th and November 19th at 7 o'clock. Anyone who's been in the choir before or haven't sung with us in a while and you want to come just for these 2 practices, it would be a nice gift to the congregation for our Thanksgiving service. So I hope that Wayne will put that in the bulletin, the printed bulletin, and we'll remind you of it next week.
And very quickly here, also do want to mention next Sunday morning will be our congregational prayer service at 9:30. It's in the ladies' parlor. If you will, please be here and be part of that. And I believe that I just want to share with you just real quickly here, let you know that you see on our prayer list here, Francis and Jimmy Bauer. Jim is going in Thursday, the Providence Hospital for open heart. So we might want to remember him in our prayers and our concerns. He, of course, like anybody else, pretty, had a little anxiety about that. But just remember them in your prayers. Also, David shared with me that Jan Joseph needs our prayers. Has been diagnosed with, I I think, breast cancer. So need to be aware of that. And David has a family that needs our prayers. So an employee of his is Stanley Williams' family, one of his employees. The mother of that family just passed away, young age, with cancer. They have some children involved in that family, and we need to remember that family in our prayers. And I believe that's all except the wishing of one birthday here. I looked through our directory, and I see that we have one birthday coming up this week, and that's Brother Donnie Stars will be having a birthday, and he is a Halloween baby. Now, I don't know how that worked out with your mother, whether you was a trick or a treat. I don't know which you come out there. But I'm sure she felt like, Dottie, would you just, since you're the only one, come up here just a second. Just come up here. Was there another one? Oh, so you want to come sing with us? We're gonna have a what, Doris? Yeah, well, we wished him happy birthday last week. So for our Halloween birthday boy, and let's use Donnie's name, if we will, instead of God bless you. Let's sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Donnie. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much. We look forward. And John, I apologize for stealing some of your time. Welcome you to the church this morning. I hope you have come prepared to meet the good Lord in this service.
Like this to take this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you to this service of worship. And each one that has agreed to serve with me, I thank them again. I'm going to read scripture from John, 4th chapter. That's 1 John, 4th chapter, 9 through 12. Get the right one here. And this is how God showed his love among us. He sent his own one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. them all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here today. As I got up this morning, I was actually camping. I looked out, I saw your beauty as it came up over the treetops. Please let John's word teach each of our hearts in the way that is meant. Help us to go out, spread your word, not only to our friends, but to the people on the street that we don't know. Bless us today and through the week. Keep us safe and bring us back again next Sunday. In your name we pray. Amen.
Let us pray. Our most kind and loving Heavenly Father, this has been a troubling week in the news. In our country and in Canada, we're used to peace. We think of ourselves as great nations. And this week we saw terror. And Lord, I know that you have been taken out of so many things in our country. And I would ask that you would allow that to be restored, that we would not take your name out of anything else, but restore it. And I would ask that people would return to you, return their hearts to the Lord, to the Savior, and that we could regain a country that we recognize, a country where we can walk freely and not worry. Lord, I pray for peace in our hearts, that we will not be overburdened by the things we hear in the news, that we can have peace and joy and hope, and that we can spread joy to others, and that they can see by our actions that the Christian way is the way to live. And I pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
How many of you listen to NPR radio, 91.3 on the radio station? Well, if you were listening to it last week, then you know that it was their fall fund drive. And the way you knew that was that every 10 minutes their regular programming was interrupted as they were making pleas. I think they were trying to achieve a goal of like $100,000 that they were trying to get pledged in 1 week's time. And as I was listening to it, they had all of these radio personalities that were trying to put their own spin on the pledge. And you know, there's probably not that many ways that you can ask people to give, but probably the one that I thought was most painfully honest was the one that says, "Please don't make us grovel." And I thought, well, I'm sorry, but I think maybe that ship had already sailed. But anyway, we come this morning, and like NPR, we are a donor-driven, a donor-supported institution. So we depend on what those people who want to give, what you and I want to contribute, and we have many options. We have many choices. We get to choose what we think we're able to contribute, what we want to contribute, when we want to contribute it, and in those areas that we would like to specifically earmark our contributions to go toward. So we get to do all those things as a donor, as a church member, and then our programs and our work is built upon those contributions that we make. And this comes from Doctrine and Covenants, and this is from the 162nd section, 6th verse. You hold precious lives in your hands. Be gentle and gracious with one another. A community is no stronger than the weakest within it. Even as the one you follow reached out to those who were rejected and marginalized, so must the community that bears his name. The ushers come forward. And this is our prayer. We come to worship aware that we are gifted. God has provided for our every need: food, shelter, knowledge, skill, friendship, and affection. In our ignorance, we often feel that these are our own possessions by right. In our best moments, we know that they are gifts, and behind all of life's wonders, we find God's presence. For all of this, we give thanks. May we spend ourselves and our substance in striving for Christ's goals. May we hunger and thirst after righteousness, and may we be the merciful and the peacemakers in the midst of injustice and strife. So would we give of our time, our talent, our treasure, and our toil in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Isn't it wonderful to be loved? Today we have a theme, commanded to love, and I really thought about that. How can I command somebody to love? But God gave us a commandment. And so I was thinking this morning, I was waiting for Louise to finish getting ready. She always tells me it takes a while to get beauty ready. And 3 years ago, probably right around this time, Louise and I were heading up I-65 just south of Birmingham, and my brother called me and said my mother had passed away. She had fallen a couple days earlier, and my brother and I, we had to make a decision of whether we wanted to have her put on dialysis. And we felt the way her life was, active, she had lived 88 years, she would not want to be tied down to a machine 3 times a week. And so indication was that I would have several days to get up there. And as it worked out, it didn't. But I remember, and I always remember, my last conversation with my mother. My brother had taken his cell phone into the intensive care room that she was in and allowed me to talk to her. Now, when I remember my mother calling me Jackie. I was a John Jr., so I was referred to as Jackie. And as I got older, it was changed from Jackie to Jack. And when my dad died, I guess my mother, in remembrance of him, she started calling me John. as all of you know me as John. But the last time I talked to her, she called me a different name. She called me too. And what that referred to was when I went to hang up, I said, "I love you, Mom." And she said, "I love you too." And so I take it affectionately. I can still feel her hands. My mother was, in my life, started out to be about 4'10", 4'10" and a half, and when she died, she was about 4'9". And probably by the time I was in the 5th grade, I was taller than her, and that. But I can always remember when I'd say bye to her, she'd take her hands and put them on my face, and pull me down and give me a kiss. Now, there's nothing like a mother's love. I've been told that. Not being a mother, I can't relate to it, but I know what a father's love is. When our 2 daughters would get into a sibling squabble, I would gather them up, and we have a picture when they were in a sorority together out at South Alabama where they were hugging each other, and the caption on that picture is, "We love each other." I would take them when they got in a squabble and put them together and say, "Tell each other you love each other." And they would do that. And that has stayed with them all these years. I share the rostrum here. There's different kinds of love. I can look out at each of you and have a love for you. There's something in my life that you have touched. In a conversation, a moment together of sharing ministry, whatever. And I'm not going to go through each of you and say what that is. But I am going to start off with John. I have an affection for John. 52 years ago, his mother, Nell, used to give me my mail when I was stationed out at Brookley. And she would always have kind words for me. And I remember, John, you didn't have as much gray hair, the pictures that your mother used to show. And that, but I remember that. And so I've had an affectionate love for John because of the connection through his mother. And something that simple, giving me my mail. Alice doesn't go back as far in that. John's mother was 52 years ago. Alice about 45, maybe 46 years. Alice and I were Sunday school teachers together at that end of the educational building. And when one of us was going to miss, we would take the other's class. And we became acquainted. And out of that relationship, and I had her son in my Sunday school class, there became a love. And then I got Michelle. Haven't known you that long, Michelle, but Michelle shares her Dr. Pepper with me. Diet Dr. Pepper. But more than that, one Sunday when I was pastor, I came in, and Michelle was sitting on the bleachers there, and God made me aware of Michelle's love. And now I have Dick. Dick and I have ministered to others a number of times over the years. I remember one time Dick gave me a ride to Pascagoula. We were having a priesthood meeting or a leadership meeting, and it was a bad thunderstorm in the summertime, and we were sitting at the first traffic light on Highway 90, at Pascagoula, and a bolt of lightning hit the telephone pole that had the lights, traffic lights connected to, and charred material fell on the hood, smoldering. And Dick said to me, "John, you can get out of my lap now." But my fondest memory of Dick is for no apparent reason in the wee hours of one morning when I was in the bathroom. I passed out and bounced off the wall. And Louise called Dick, and he came over and went with us to the hospital and stayed with us. His love showed for me. And so I'm thankful. Now you're not up here, so I'm not going to talk about you, but I have an affection for Joe Allen. Your two sons worked with me out at Degussa, Mike and Mark. What fine young men. Always willing to help out there. I remember Mike, he's a little bit bigger than Zachy here, and we couldn't get a boxcar closed on a railroad boxcar, and Mike came out there and put his body in behind it and got it shut. I think he jarred the whole plant site when he shut it. So I have those memories of the people up here, but I want to share one with you because we're going to talk about love. Willie played football in high school for Viger. He was a security guard out at Degussa. And I became acquainted with Willie. The area that he worked security, I was oversee that portion of that security. And one day I heard on the radio some chatter going on. Something had happened to Willie. And when I got to where Willie was stationed, he was in a rage. And everybody was standing outside the door that was there, just standing there. And something caused me to go in where Willie was. And when I walked through the door, you know, the phone, not like the small ones we got now that are cordless and that, but this was he had picked it up and he threw it at me. And I kept going. And I put my arms around him. He was a big guy, he played lineman. And I had to look up at him like this, and I put my arms around him. And I said, "Willie, everything's going to be all right." They end up taking him to the hospital. And I went to visit Willie in the hospital. He could not believe that I had come to the hospital to see him. And so we're going to get into these words found in Matthew. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." Well, there you have it. I could probably sit down, but I want to share with you. If we're going to have faith in God, we're told we got to love Him. If we're going to make it a way of life, we got to love our neighbor. We have to do these two things. Because if we're going to demonstrate that faith, we have to take that faith and share it. And we can't share it unless we're doing this. When God says, love me, He's not talking about a preference or a fad or a feeling or a passing fancy. God is talking about a commitment above anything else that we would commit our lives to in our lives. So how does that affect our relationship with God? Jesus put it very simple, didn't He? He says that we have to love not only God, but we have to love people. Jesus came to fulfill the law by making God's will prevail. And God's will seeks out our well-being. God's will seeks out our well-being. Jesus exchanged love for the law. This love that God is talking about is different from the love that we merely demonstrate in our daily lives. If we don't lack an intense love for God, we will never be able to pursue sharing it with the next generation. Back in 1966, John Lennon of the Beatles, the Fab Four, made an arrogant statement. The Beatles are more popular than Jesus Christ. Five years later, in 1971, George Harrison, one of the Beatles, wrote a song. My sweet Lord, I really want to know you. Recently, I've been caught in the middle, swamped by the enormous campaign ads on the TV and radio. It's not that the politicians use these abundantly. It's the manner in which the ads are used. Most of the ads tell us what's wrong with the other candidate, but they never tell us what they profess. And so I find myself feeling caught up. I really don't know what the issue is, because neither one says what they believe in. And so it's hard for me to see which one I want to vote for. Have you ever felt that similar situation? Perhaps you've been caught up by those ads. Maybe you know of other points in life. Maybe you're caught up in the middle between two people or two groups of people over some issue. We've all felt that, I'm sure. But if we know about being in the middle of an issue, think of what I just read to you out of the gospel and be in Jesus' shoes. He is caught by the two groups of the Jewish leaders, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. These two groups have very different opinions about God and worship. For example, the Sadducees believe that there is no resurrection from the dead. They also believed that there was only one true place to worship, and that was the temple in Jerusalem. By contrast, the Pharisees do not believe in the resurrection of the dead. Do believe in the resurrection of the dead. They also believe that true worship occurred in obeying the laws of Moses. Didn't make any difference what synagogue, which they had a number of them in different villages and that. But that's what they believed. The Sadducees had asked Jesus a question if he believed in the resurrection. So they wanted to do this because they wanted to see what side he was on. And when he gave an answer, they were completely deflated. Now the Pharisees said, well, he must be on our side. So they decided to ask him a question just to make sure. And that's when the lawyer asked him the question. And Jesus gave him the answer. What was the greatest commandment? You see, the Pharisees and the Sadducees had many laws. In fact, I think I read somewhere there was over 600 laws that they tried to live by. Now, years ago, I remember as a kid trying to play Monopoly, and you had to learn what could do this and what could do that, and you had all these rules. But the end result was you wanted to end up most of the play money. Well, all these laws were summed up in the two that Jesus quoted. Yes, they had positive laws and negative laws. A positive law would be honor your mother and father. A negative law would be thou shalt not murder or kill. Now, if you love, you're not going to do those. Love took over. Love did away with the law. The love that Jesus Christ promoted in his life. And where did Jesus get his response? In Deuteronomy 6, we have these words, which Jesus quoted at the time. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments I give to you are to be in your heart. Number one thing, one God. That's what the Israelites believed in. 2, you had to love your God. But then he threw in, love your neighbor. The Pharisees didn't expect this answer. So they didn't have any argument against it. Our language places them first and second, with God first and neighbor second. Jesus' words do not place them in that priority ranking of number 1 and number 2. Jesus claims that the second commandment is like the first. Accordingly to Jesus, these commandments are not set in order. They are equal. In other words, if we do not love our neighbors, we can't love God. You can't love God if you don't love your neighbor, and if you don't love God, you can't love your neighbor. Love can change others and us. God knows what's best for us, as God wants His will to be our being. In fact, we know sometimes we have bad feelings about our neighbors, don't we? And yet we're told to love our neighbors. I bet you each of you can think right now of someone that has hurt your feelings that you hadn't let go. If you really think about it, it'll just curl your blood if you think about that individual. Well, it could be somebody in our family, could be somebody in our neighborhood, could be somebody even in this church. Can you believe that? We're in a church where we're talking about love and we won't forgive somebody. By the way, looking through these glasses, you're all blurred, so and maybe that's what we see. That person becomes a blur to us because we don't love them like we're supposed to. We avoid being in their presence. Sometimes we probably skip going to some function because that person's going to be there, and I'm just not going to go there because that person's going to be there. And we just let those feelings well up. So I guess what I'm trying to say, if we're not loving like we're being commanded to love, what do we got to do? Simple thing. We got to forgive. What great power there is in love. So to be what you were meant to be, start loving. Forgive others. In Leviticus 19:18, these words were given. And we think, Jesus was the love factor, but love was talked through all the scriptures, even in the Old Testament. But this was given. Do not seek revenge or bear grudges against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. So the love's been there. So we need to give up our grievances. And I've got to thinking, isn't it wonderful to be able to forgive somebody, to have that power that somebody has committed against you in a sin, and yet you can forgive them? You're not being God, but you're following what God has given us through Jesus Christ. Jesus' teaching of this love is no accident. For Jesus is about love. Jesus is about forgiveness. If we are to be true followers of the Christ, then we are called to practice forgiveness, even when we don't want to. Only God is capable of directing our lives to a successful conclusion. God gives us the power to overrule the adversaries in our life, and we become victorious. We must follow Him. We must trust Him with obedience. A woman was driving through Oregon over the Cascade Range, ran into a snowstorm, and became very frightened. Then she peered ahead and saw a snowplow. Man, what luck! She kept as close to the machine as she could while it removed the snow. At times the snow was heavy, almost cutting off her vision, but she faithfully followed, kept on following. After some time, the snowplow stopped and the driver got out and walked over to her car. "Lady, where are you going?" She replied, "I'm on my way to Central Oregon." "Well, lady, you'll never get there following me. I'm just plowing this parking lot." Do you ever feel you're traveling in circles? Do you ever feel you're traveling in circles? The love of God and the love of people are not the same. reality should tell us that. If it is not God who follows, it is not God who follows, but it is us who follows God. Simply put, God is God, and He cannot be replaced by human fellowship. Just because we gather together and show love for each other, we're not replacing God and how He feels towards us. We have to love God as well as each other. When we have the viewpoint of God's view of our world, we see where God's moving among us, changing people. Yes, we have concerns around us each day. We have a concern about the killings that happened this past week. Alice prayed for peace. Where's love? Where's love? Well, when I get down to it, we can't use our earthly views for our salvation, or we'll end up like the woman following the snowplow in a circle. Our challenge is the same that faced the Hebrews on Mount Sinai and also the followers of Jesus. We are called to be what we are. We have been loved and forgiven and redeemed by God. We are to love God above everything else because He first loved us and forgave us. Then we are called to simply love as we've been loved, to show others that God has loved us by loving God's people. Remember, we can only love God as much as we love our neighbors. Hosea 1:49. And behold, I tell you these things, that ye may learn wisdom, that ye may learn that when you are in the service of your fellow beings, you are only in the service of your God. Goes hand in hand, how we love each other, how we love our neighbors, how we love people we come in contact with that we don't recognize as being neighbors. The months that we've been doing the food pantry has given me a new precept of loving people. I've been able to share, and it did my heart good. I did not participate in the last pantry, but Angie told me this one small woman wanted to know where that guy with the smile all the time was. And Angie said, well, I don't know who you're talking about. And she said, well, he just hugs everybody. And Angie said, well, that's my father. And she said, what's his name? She said, John Sebastian. And Wayne, nothing from you, but we're all pastors, aren't we? And she says, oh, Pastor John. And we're all called to be pastors, not just to each other here, but in our neighborhoods, wherever we are. Love God, love our neighbor. It takes care of everything if we do that.
We're going to sing 367, 1 and 4. And we're moving right into that right now. Right now. We stand.
Fill us with your love.
you, Michelle.
Thank you, John. That was great.
Well, if you could be known for anything else, I guess this would be the command that I
That's what Angie said. That's all right. I didn't mind. Have to go down here. Okay. Good job. Have the candle.
Okay, okay,
We'll get our stand back.
right,
Okay.
okay.